Sup guys, it's a new month. August is over and I want to lay out a scenario if Bitcoin can go to $200,000 and also why I am now pretty convinced that this whole Bitcoin season is officially over. Welcome to Blockchain Decoded, the FOMO Factory. Like the video if you like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn the bell notification on. Let's get right into it. So it's now September. Welcome to a super bearish month historically in crypto, which is not that bearish as a lot of people may make it seem, but it's not the best month in crypto, historically speaking. But historically speaking, we don't have a lot of history yet. So let's find out. And let's also find out what could happen if it does play out. Why did I say that this Bitcoin season is, in my opinion, now over? A couple videos ago, I made a statement where I said, if the Bitcoin dominance closes August below this level, then it slides out for the Bitcoin dominance. And it just did. The Bitcoin dominance last month went down with 5.9%. This is the biggest monthly drop on a closing base for the Bitcoin dominance that we have seen since August 2021. That's a big thing. That's more than 4 years. And it's funny how these 4-year things keep coming back. But hey, the biggest monthly closing drop since August 2021. Now, this is not just a correction by the Bitcoin dominance. In my opinion, this confirms the reversal. And I will also talk about what I think is likely to happen in the short term. Although I do not think you should do too much with that. So if you look at the Bitcoin dominance, it is below the 9 monthly moving average. And the last time it really went below there was in December 2024. Now, you might remember November, December of 2024, there was a pretty decent moment in the market, especially for altcoins. And now we have a way bigger drop. This month for the Bitcoin dominance turned out to be a huge wick to the downside. It eventually closed above the 9-month moving average anyway, and it continued going up. Now, as you can see, the whole Bitcoin dominance run was mainly just getting support from this moving average. Now, we did not only close below it, it got smacked down below it so extremely hard, and it never even attempted to get even close back to it, right? That shows to me like, hey, the Bitcoin run, the Bitcoin dominance run, the Bitcoin season is really, in my opinion, over. I could be wrong about this, but the Bitcoin dominance now has showed more weakness than it did in the last 4 years combined, basically. So for the Bitcoin dominance bulls, it was an enormous run. It was an enormous run. But this shows to me like, wow, this is done. This is done. So now what? Now I think that in the short term we can get a decent bounce by the Bitcoin dominance, right? And that doesn't mean to me that the whole Bitcoin season is back again. You have to realize as well that if we look at the seasonality, there's always a moment in the market where Bitcoin dominance goes up. And what does it mean, right? Why does it matter? Well, Bitcoin dominance going up just shows that Bitcoin is becoming worth more relatively to the rest of whatever is in crypto. Right? So even if Ethereum went up together with Bitcoin right here, or altcoins went up together with Bitcoin right here, more money was going into Bitcoin. So there were more returns into Bitcoin. Now, it's a given that Bitcoin is lower risk than anything else in crypto combined, basically. Right? So if there is more reward and lower risk, then of course it makes no sense at all to be in anything else but Bitcoin. right? Now, this run was nothing different once again, right? It, you know, here it went up, sideways, here it went just up, and it took a little longer, right? But overall, the starting point, the end point, they are exactly the same. Now, in the short term, I think, again, that this will have a bounce because we are sitting at huge support. I'm having it on a monthly. If you put it on the weekly, you can see it even better. There's some huge support right here in 2020. There's massive resistance in 2018, 19 right here. Also support in 2019. We had quite some resistance here in 2024 and some support here at the end of 2024 before we even went up more. Now, the Bitcoin dominance went down like a complete shitcoin. And it went down to this level, I would say, just purely based off of nothing more spectacular than simple support resistance. It makes sense that it will have a bounce right here. Now, how hard could it bounce? Could it go back to this moving average? I would not be surprised, to be honest. It was what drives, it drove the Bitcoin dominance up the full cycle. So let it have a retest, right? And potentially a rejection right there, but let it have that retest, right? Now, that comes in at the moment at 61.6%. If it goes there, then of course there will probably be a reason for people to say like, altcoins are dead, right? Again, that will actually just be a bounce by the Bitcoin dominance of 6%, right? But it's surpassing that 60% level again. And I think that that's some kind of psychological level because we are now below 60%, right? That's step one. And it doesn't mean shit, actually, right? Going from 61 to 59 looks big, but going from 58 to 55 is bigger, right? And that's nothing psychological included right there, actually. But I think that this is a, pretty realistic chance that could happen. And the fib retracement, or extension in this case, says the 0.382 comes in around that level together with the 0.5, right? The whole golden zone is right here. So it makes sense, right? So it might be that altcoins and Ethereum are going to cool off a little bit against Bitcoin. That's fine. If you look at especially Ethereum, the run that we just had is a cooling off period that weird. If I look at this chart, I'm like, damn. I mean, it went up 2x, right? More even. Against Bitcoin, while Bitcoin was also going up, right? 2x doesn't sound like a lot, but 2x against Bitcoin in a couple months with like barely any red candles. Like this was the only one basically. Let it cool off a little bit. Nothing weird, right? Now, if we look at altcoins against Bitcoin, and that kind of depends in that case because it also, it depends how altcoins do against ETH, right? If ETH goes down against Bitcoin, but altcoins go up against Ethereum, it could still be that altcoins go sideways or up against Bitcoin, right? Now, if we look at altcoins on their Ethereum pair, where are they? Are they sitting at support? Are they sitting at resistance? Here we are, right? Is it at the range lows? Depends what the range lows are because it's not really like there's a wick here, but there's a wick above and there's a wick in the middle. So it's kind of hard to say like this is the low. But overall, this is the lower area, right? This is the upper area. We can all see that. And altcoins against Ethereum are sitting really, really, really low at this point. If we look at the RSI is sitting as low as where it was in July 2023, right? From that point, that was basically the run for this whole cycle so far where ETH got wrecked against alts, right? You see that alts outperformed ETH like crazy. We are at that same point right now. If you look at a weekly, it is flashing red, flashing oversold. Last time, there's no last time. So short term, between now and this week, somewhere, whatever. I don't know. I have to look at the 4 hour, etc. I don't care, right? Short / midterm, alts are heavily oversold against ETH. Now, I think that alts against ETH will go to the range high again. I mean, it's been ranging like this for the last 7 years. Makes not a lot of sense, in my opinion, to say that they don't go up again. So I converted quite some ETH for alts at this level. If it goes down here, I'm gonna do the other half. But I'm not so sure if it gets there. I don't know. If it does, great. If it doesn't, fine as well, right? So in that case, alts against Bitcoin, I don't know. They might not do that bad. I think that if the Bitcoin dominance bounces at this point, it's more because ETH is getting corrected against Bitcoin and not necessarily altcoins. Which means that we see this chart, the Bitcoin dominance, ETH dominance, and stable dominance, go down, because that just means money flowing from whatever into alts. That chart happens to be sitting at range highs, like the prime example of an oscillator, which you want to be bearish on, right? And we are sitting at this level for a long time, yeah. Price-wise, level-wise, nothing changed, right? It just takes a long time. But if you look at the levels, I'm like, what's the reason to be bullish on this chart? Like, so it kind of shows me like, okay, we had that Bitcoin season, clearly. We had a very fast but explosive ETH season. And I say had because I think that, again, in the short term, that might correct. I don't think that ETH season is completely over yet. I think that the worst case scenario, it should go somewhere here, right? This is, if you want to see it as a downtrend, right, then it should go here. If you see it as an oscillator, then this line doesn't exist, and then it should go here, right? So in that case, yeah, Bon Jovi, right? We have wait there. So maybe wait a little bit longer and sit out the short-term corrections. Now, if we look at altcoins against their Bitcoin pair, so with everything we just discussed, I think it's more likely that ETH is going to correct against Bitcoin mostly. But if we look at alts against their Bitcoin pair, this is where we are right now. Right now, again, this chart is showing me like, hey, could it go down short term? Sure. Is it wise to be bearish on it, on the big picture? Not really. It's where it found support in 2017. This is where it found support in 2019, in 2020, at the end of 2020. We had just 1 wick below it once, right? That's it. Overall, this level right here, where we just bounced off of, has been support for almost a decade. Yeah, I'm not gonna like put my money on the gamble that, well, you know, we might get a wick like this again. Look, there's always an opportunity, or it's an opportunity, but there's always a possibility. But is it something that you want to hold on to, really? I mean, support, wick, support. And now you're going to say like, no, another wick. I don't know. It might not. But overall, buying around this area, in my opinion, is great, right? People last cycle who bought here. Eventually, they ended up fine, to say the least, right? Shorter term, though, if you look at the 50 weekly moving average for this, we went above it a couple times, right? And we're now below it slightly, right? So we are now kind of flirting with that 50 weekly moving average. It's fine. We really need to see a consistent close above it. And for the people that might wonder, like, well, I mean, is it not bad for alts that it takes that long? I don't know. Again, this is the money flow, right? Bitcoin, ETH, alts. We just had Bitcoin. ETH is like kind of in the process slash now maybe slightly passing. It's only normal that alts didn't had their run yet. It's only normal, right? And I think that once this happens, like said in the last video, it will wreck a lot of people because there's so much disbelief right now, just like there was a lot of disbelief here. But once we are that low, it means we are that low because everybody sold. There's nobody left to sell, right? So if you are one of the few people right here that says like, I'm in, take that opportunity, and then people get in, the liquidity is already low. It takes nothing to pump the crap out of it, right? So it only makes sense to be bullish at low levels, right? That's the whole common base 101 investing thing. I think that alts against Bitcoin will have a fantastic run. Now, what's funny is this. If we look at Bitcoin, this is a snippet from Blockchain Decoded. We're going to release the platform soon, so stay tuned. But this, for example, is the pi cycle top area indicator, right? Every time we get the pi cycle top, it's when these two moving averages cross. And when they cross again, between these crosses is a good distribution area. We also have it for the bottom. So stay tuned. That's why you really want to check out the platform once we go live. But the pi cycle top so far always been accurate, right? Bitcoin has never topped out without these two moving averages crossing. And you might be like, well, what do two lines matter? It's the moving average, right? If Bitcoin is spending so much time at a certain level, then that's becoming the moving average, right? If the shorter term moving average goes above it, it means that short term Bitcoin is overheated and likely in for a correction. And therefore you have these blow off tops which end a bull market, right? Therefore moving averages, and especially the crosses of those, are so damn accurate. It says something about being short-term overbought, and that plays right into the psychology of people, right? If we now get a God candle of Bitcoin, everybody's happy, but people are gonna think like, oh, maybe it will have a correction. That's what the moving averages literally show, right? Now, we are far from that. These moving averages are sitting almost 2x from each other right now, suggesting that the risk for this indicator, the indicator that has always been right, is now sitting at 28% from 0 to 100. Right? That's low. It's quite low. So that's one indicator that shows like, hey, we are not there yet. Another thing that this is a little extreme in my opinion, not plan B, but plan C. He said, what if the earlier Bitcoin cycles were nothing more than the product of a retail-dominated FOMO-fueled market? What if from here on Bitcoin simply slow grinds up to the right with a long, drawn-out, uneventual 10 to 20, 30% correction and consolidation? And every time we enter one of those consolidations, people selling thinking that the cycle is over and Bitcoin will drop 50, 80% so they can buy back in lower, but it never does. So far, so good, right? Because that's exactly what's happening. But then he says, instead, we just keep on grinding slowly upwards to $1 million over the next 7 years in a very boring and overwhelming way, as Bitcoin to gain acceptance and adoption from the traditional financial system and major players. this is like, I like the theory, but this is basically saying, hey, this is what it has been happening so far in this market. But apart from that, it's nothing more than a theory, right? You can see right here, yes, is this cycle different? Look, the cycle, in my opinion, is from bottom, right, to top. That's the cycle. That's always the same so far. How it moves from A to Z, that's always different, right? And this time as well, Bitcoin doesn't have huge corrections this time. We had once or twice we had a real like good correction, a typical bull market correction, 33%, and here we had a correction of 31%, right? But in the last cycles, that happened at least like 8 times. Now, I don't look. Apart from that, it's just Bitcoin up, sideways, up, sideways, up, sideways, up, sideways, up. That's what Bitcoin does. This Bitcoin cycle is deep proof that you should buy the fucking dip, right? Because we had like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 of those. And every time it showed like, well, if I bought it, like, then buy it, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like, go with it as long as it works. But the point of Plan C was, what if we will keep on doing this forever until we get to $1 million? Well, $1 million is a random freaking number, of course, right? So that's, I think, not gonna be true. But I do think, though, that we will have a typical bear market once again, right? My base case is still Q4. Why? Very simple. Because until proven otherwise, why, like every single time people say, well, no, it's now gonna go up, and it went down, right? Here as well, we topped out in April. People were like, you see, it's not gonna be a 4-year cycle. Then what happened? We had this bam until November, and Bitcoin was like, all right, that was it for the 4-year cycle, right? Nuts. So I just don't want to think that this time is different until it finally is. Because if you think this time is different, what you're basically trying to do is like, well, I don't want to get wrecked, right? Because this time is going to be different, and I don't want to sell at the end of the post-halving year because then I'm going to get wrecked. But what actually happens, the people that do think that this time is different, it turns out that it's not. And every time they try to make such an attempt, that's how they get wrecked. So I rather stick to something that works and maybe get wrecked once it is finally different, right? But until proven otherwise, my base case is top, probably Q4. But not blindly. I'm going to keep my eyes on the charts, of course. In that case, if things play out like they so far play out, right? We have now 1.5 decades of history, basically. Then it could be pretty interesting. Because if you look at the Bitcoin monthly returns, right? We're now in September. And we call it Rectember. And October, and that's all fine. But is it Rectember? If you look at the post-halving years, right? Because I don't think we should see 2025 the same as 2024 or 2019. Like, post-halving years are the years where you like go up, right? That's the bull market year always. Like, we should not compare that to a 2018 or whatever, right? So 2013, Bitcoin, September, down 1.7%. 2017, down 7%. 2021, down 7%. The average is down 3.5%. Again, could we go up? Yeah. Could we go down 20%? Yeah. But the average is something that you want to kind of hold on to, right? But then we have the rest of the year, what's the rest of the year? Well, I can show it to you right here, but then again, let's take a look at the average, right? And by the way, this is the average of what I said. This is the average of every single year, not only the post-halving year, right? But if we look at the post-halving year, September down 7. 2017 is down 7%, and 2013 is down 1%. So that average is not 3%, by the way. It's 15, 5, something like that. Fine, nothing weird, nothing spectacular, right? Cool. But let's take a look. Let's just take the rest of the year, like all the fucking data that we have for October or September, October, November, and December, right? How does it look? Down 3, plus 20, plus 46, plus 4. Okay. If that is how Bitcoin will move, which again, disclaimer, it won't, right? But if we stick to the seasonality and just look at the average, so this is not something bullish, this is not something bearish, this is something that has played out on average, right? Most likely. Then this is how Bitcoin will move, right? It will go down to $105,000 in September. Then in October, it could go up to 125. In November, could shoot up to 185. And then in December, it could go up to 193. Seasonality-wise, cycle-wise, after that, bear market, right? That should be it. Not saying that it will again, but don't be surprised. My base case is not that that will happen. Why? Because you want to look at the median as well. And what's the median? The median basically looks at the outliers, right? There's a very low month. There's a month which is very high, very explosive. Let's take it in the middle. Because what you'll notice, 2013, it went up with 450%. Yeah. Look, there was 2013, there was no liquidity. Like, we're not in 2013. There's like always a possibility that something like that will happen, but it's not something that you want to rely on, right? So if you look at the median, it's not 46%, it's 10%, right? 10%. The rest is kind of the same. So if this is not 46%, but 10%, that's around 140. And then we can take this thing right here. And that would put Bitcoin at 145. Seasonality-wise, this would be the price where Bitcoin should top out. But that doesn't line up with the TA, because there is one, like, let me give you one example. The logarithmic regression band, right? If you look at that, always been intact as well, right? Bear, bull, right? Green, red, bear, bull, bear, bull, bear, bull, bear, bull, right? We don't even have to go at the top of the logarithmic regression band like we did twice, right? What we can also do is, like the last cycle, you know, touch the downside of it. Even if we do that, that's 250K as of today, right? That's a big difference. So what might be the case is that the TA is going to be right, but that the cycle will move maybe a little bit to the right, right? Again, it's not my base case, but crypto is following the business cycle. The business cycle has been moved to the right. We already know that. So maybe there's more to crypto than just, oh, it's December, so let's go down. And therefore, this could be a little bit in line with what Plan C said. Like, hey, maybe it takes longer, more boring, but it goes up, not towards $1 million. I think there will still be regular bear markets, right? I mean, the S&P still has regular bear markets, right? And that has been around for like a century. So we'll see. Overall, that will be a good thing though, because it gives everything time to go up with it, right? Even if Bitcoin just goes to $140,000, right? If you look at altcoins on their Bitcoin pair, right? They are now here. They are sitting pretty low, right? What if they go here again? That would be the, and this is not the exact, this is a stupid chart, by the way. Here. What if they go here again, somewhere? I'm not even saying making a new high, right? They didn't make a new high over here. I don't expect them to make a new high in this cycle. But it could be something like here, maybe. I don't know, somewhere here, right? That's a 2x against Bitcoin. If Bitcoin sits at $140,000 and altcoins 2x against Bitcoin, plus the liquidity goes risk on, right? So where you don't see the high caps go up, but the low caps, yeah, then you can put a 0 behind that 2x for the altcoins that we probably invest in. So this is my whole thought process for now. In the meantime, Nev spoke about a potential Bitcoin correction, right? Like we have spoke about the Bitcoin dominance and this and that. But where could Bitcoin go in the shorter term? I don't know. I don't know. If you look at the fib retracement, then we are now sitting at the 0.618. So I would say like, hey, if there is a short-term bounce for Bitcoin, then this is a good level. Otherwise, I do think we should go down to 104. And we came up with 104, 105 earlier, actually. That would be a decent level. Also lines up pretty well with this resistance over here. So I think that if you wrap this video up, the overall message is, could it go down? Yes. Is there any reason to panic about a dip? No. Is it probably a fantastic idea to buy it up? Yes. Again, then what to buy? Bitcoin run, the Bitcoin season is over, I think. The Ethereum season is maybe not over, but like this at least a fat local top probably. Then what season is it going to be? There's only one thing left. So you know what kind of dip to buy. In the next video, I'll go more over the specific alts that I am looking at. And in the meantime, you know, let the dips play out, right? If you look at the cycle so far, to wrap it up, otherwise it's taking too long. I know that there's a lot of negative sentiment, especially for alts, but it has been fucking great, right? But it just depends on when you buy and when you sell. If you FOMO in when there's euphoria, then it's not going to be great. This Joe, this kind of moving with the rest of the market, but then in extremes, right? It's sitting very low. So you could say like, whoa, what a bad cycle. Depends, right? Here it was sitting fantastic. So you could have said like, whoa, what a great cycle. But it is the same cycle, right? So what is it, a bad or a great cycle? Well, again, that depends on when you buy and sell, of course, right? Because if you buy altcoins when they are low, when the sentiment is bad, right? Which is over here, which it was over here, and you sell in the euphoria instead of buying there, that's a 10x right there, a 10x, right? And now it's going down again. Great, because if you should know by now that you should take fucking profits when people are euphoric, right? So at these levels, if you apply it right, and I'm not saying that like Like, you didn't do well, bad you. Like, I didn't do perfect, definitely not. But you should be able to have some cash right now to buy into coins while there's so much confirmation and opportunity at the same time in this market right now, right? This is fantastic. Super, right? Another coin like, I don't know, but this thing ran 25x. Well, like, I don't even know, like maybe 31x. Right? And since that 31x, it is now down 75%. And people say like, oh, it's bad. Yeah, it's bad if you bought here and you are down 75%, definitely. But if you bought somewhere here, then you'd still up 8x, right? Let alone if you traded it a little bit, right? You did fantastic. Even the boring coins, right? I want you for this, by the way. I hope, like, but even the boring coins, right? Chainlink, it doesn't really do shit. It doesn't do shit. This is one of the more boring coins, right? The higher caps and usually more boring, but still, there are definitely good opportunities right here, right? Seedify. This thing, it not only did a 12x and 11x, but the IDOs in this period gave like 40x's returns, right? And not even Pico top, but just overall averaging out. Crazy. And now we are at this level that I feel like, wow. This is like, it depends. It's a matter of perspective. I definitely cannot call this altcoin market a bad market. Right? It's a market that gave a lot of returns, a lot. And now it gives a fat opportunity. But an opportunity never looks like an opportunity when it is an opportunity, if you know what I mean. An opportunity always looks like an opportunity when the opportunity is gone. But when we are here, you can say, wow, what an opportunity it was. But when we are here, you say, it's bad, it's dead, it's fucked, it's scary. Again, it might be. But it also might be just yet another opportunity like shit kind of always is. What a great ending. Thanks for watching. Like the video. If you like the video, let me know down below. I don't know. Let's just say something. I'm giving up on you guys. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day.